2025 annual results. Truly, we appreciate your presence and your continued interest in the work we do in service of the people and the economy of our region, which is KwaZulu-Natal. This occasion is more than a presentation of numbers. It is an opportunity to account, reflect, and reaffirm our commitment to reliable, sustainable, and affordable bulk water services. Water is the foundation of public health, social development, and economic growth. I think, as we all know, if you want to start any business, water has its head somewhere in either your cost or other your material. If you're in construction, you'll need water. So it indeed is one of those cornerstones of economic growth. I think as a public water utility, we carry responsibility that goes beyond infrastructure and balance sheet. We're a custodian of critical resource that touches every household, every school, every clinic, every business we serve. When you reflect on schools, for instance, when you reflect on hospitals, you'll find that there is also a very great element of rights that you now deal with. So the provision of water also is centered around you've got to try and comply, you've got to try and comply, you've got to try and see how you recover and see how you recover from whoever is your debtor in that instance. Hence, I say there is a very great element of rights that is embedded in the provision of the water services. The 2024-25 financial year unfolded in a complex operating environment. We faced ongoing climate variability, rising input cost, energy constraints, and increased demand for water services across our supply areas. Despite these pressures, the organization remained focused on operating sustainability, financial discipline, and service continuity. The results we are releasing today reflect the resilience of our systems and, more importantly, the dedication and professionalism of our employees. If you were to dwell on debt, how much we owed as a water board, you will ask yourself, how then do we do all these other things and still get positive results? Hence, we say it is the dedication and professionalism of our employees. Perhaps this is not a place to clap hands for them. We pay them very well. You'll be surprised how much, in terms of ensuring that we look after our employees. You would hardly hear that such and such has poached an employee from uMngeni-uThukela water. Because we focused, have a satisfied employee, a better paid employee, and then ask for results. So in that vein, that's why we say next year we won't be talking about an unqualified audit report. We're talking about something which is a higher level than that, because we think we've brought enough grass to feed where we needed to feed. Therefore, we're positive that we will be back on this stage with different results. But I must just want to hint on uMngeni-uThukela's mandate. See, because somewhere it gets lost as to what our mandate is. Our mandate really is to provide strategic direction and unwavering governance to ensure that this essential utility delivers on its promise. We oversee the operations that supply water to over 7 million people, powering our economy, industrial hubs at eThekwini, up to the Midlands, where we find the agricultural hearts of what we have in terms of providing food security. So that's the nub of how we then link to food security. We are focused on ensuring that there is water security in the province. You'll note that when you read about newspapers, you'll read about your Gauteng without water, your such and such running without water. But in this province, we haven't run to that level. We are running at a level where we're losing a lot of water that needs to be reaching communities. So the challenges are a bit skewed in that water is provided for, but it does not reach all the intended communities. But what we have as a mandate is that we must ensure that there is good water storage dams. We upgrade. We try and take water where it never was received before. So those are the type of really strategic directions that we're taking. Just to name a few projects, because they will then you then can reflect in terms of where they're positioned in the province. You have we are constructing good enough water abstraction works, which is estimated at 1 billion. We are constructing Ngwadini storage dam, which is estimated at 1.5 billion. We have uMngeni-uThukela waterworks, which is estimated at 7.8 billion. We are at planning and design of uMngeni-uThukela water project at 2 billion, which has been awarded. We are also busy with infrastructure upgrades and refurbishments to the value of 2 billion. So if you look at the number of these projects, they sound too long-term projects. But if you were to ask me, with the exception of uMngeni-uThukela waterworks, all work is ongoing on the other projects. uMngeni-uThukela is the one there where we're being challenged in court, but a very turning in events is going to be finalized on the 13th of February which is next week, so that you can then see us commencing with the waterworks in the Loam Commerce. And then we have governance, which is really, we call it a bedrock of trust. Without integrity, transparency, and accountability, we cannot hope to secure the investment, both public and private, needed to build the infrastructure of the future. The projects I've just indicated above, some of them, they require investments. They require funding, which is not what we can afford as a board. But in order for the board to secure such funding, governance becomes the question that needs to satisfy the potential investors. And I can assure you, we are going to the market in March. We're going to the market to raise 7 billion. We do know that when last we went to the market, in fact, we didn't go to the market, we met the investors. It was in May 2025. They positive with a rider that as long as you convince us with your governance and all these things. So if one were to just to digress and then say, when you read about uMngeni-uThukela Water Board in some of the newspapers, you will read a particular narrative, which narrative is what would, in my view, when we meet with the investors, they will be seeking to know more about those narratives and allegations. But one thing I can assure you is that as a board, it must be clear that the interest that is being served is the interest of the people of this province. These amounts I was indicating above of how much these projects really are budgeted for, you'll find that when somebody is baking a cake, the first thing that you'll hear will come to your nose, that somebody is actually baking a cake. And the next thing that will happen is that you'll want to see where that cake is being baked. The third thing is you want to see who the baker is. So these are the cakes that are being baked, and everyone wants to have a slice of the cake. So people use different approaches when they want to access something that smells nice. So hence I'm saying we will be in a position to deal with matters of that nature. We all know that in fact, let me then say, over the past three financial years, uMngeni-uThukela Water Board has achieved an above 95% performance against the shareholder compact and an unqualified audit opinion. At 95%, uMngeni surpassed all the other boards. And we're talking about the achievements that are achieved, secured through the narrative that I said you'll find elsewhere. We also have been affirmed at AA+ and at AAA by the rating agencies Fitch and SPOR and Fitch for the 2025 financial year. So when you have a narrative that seeks to suggest that there's pilferage in terms of money, then you probably would have to probably doubt then what these agencies have done in terms of the ratings. With those words, I'm certain that much is going to be explored through the officers of this organization who will then give you the meat into some of these bones. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Board Chairperson, for those words of welcome, as well as just a brief outline of what uMngeni-uThukela Water has achieved over the past financial year. I'd just like to also indicate, CE and the board at large, that we are also joined by our colleagues from Rand Water, who are with us today. So just a special welcome to our sister water board and a fellow member of our CISA as well. Members of the media, you can be assured that we have a media statement as well as the actual annual report, which we will be sharing with you, and of course the compulsory question and answer session. So rest assured that we will be giving you that opportunity. Can I now invite to the podium the Chief Executive, Mr. Sandile Psychology Mkhize, to give us a performance overview as well as highlights. Thank you. Maybe if I can ask that these lights be dimmed to the extent that it's possible. Can't? Okay.
Thank you, Program Director. Okay. I think I can put this aside. Thank you, Program Director, and greetings to the Chairperson of the board, board members in present, colleagues, gentlemen and ladies from the media, and our partners. Today we are meeting here to discuss the performance of the organization as at 2024-2025 financial year. It looks like technology is failing me. Apologies about that. Thank you. The outline of my talk today, we're going to deal with the governance issues, and then we're going to deal with the execution of the mandate, which the COO will deal with, and then we will deal with the financial viability and sustainability, which the CFO will address. In terms of governance, which I will deal with, we are looking at the structure and the mandate of the Water Board. We'll be looking at the executive and the board. Will look at the collaboration partnership. We'll look at the strategic risks, and then we'll look at the performance highlights for 2024-2025, and then we'll look at the corporate citizenship, which gives us the ability to get a social license to operate in areas where we are operating. I don't know what's happening.
IT colleagues, can you please assist? The screen seems to have gone blank. No, colleagues, I think please rather come to the front and assist.
Okay. It's blank. Everything went off. Okay. Yeah, it's fine. Okay, sorry about that. Colleagues, as I've spoken about the governance, we'll be looking at the structure and the mandate, the board and the executive management, the assurance and the oversight bodies that are there to provide oversight of the work of the board, the collaborations and partnerships, the strategic risks that ensure that the organization continue to stay in business, the performance highlights for 2024-25, and then corporate citizenship, as I've said, that's what gives us the social license to operate. As a water board, uMngeni-uThukela water, our primary mandate is determined by the Act of Parliament, which is the Water Services Act, especially Chapter 6, where Section 28 establishes a water board. And then Section 29 gives us our mandate, our primary mandate, which is to provide water services, which is bulk water and wastewater services or sanitation services to other water service institutions like your municipalities and industries in the areas that we are servicing. Our area has been gazetted through the Act of Parliament, which is the area of the whole of KwaZulu-Natal. Under the Parliament, we are also having the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Water and Sanitation under the chairpersonship of Honorable Basson, which provides oversight in the whole of the water entities in South Africa. And then as an entity, we are an entity that is wholly owned by the Department of Water and Sanitation, where the Minister, Ms. Pemi Majondina, the Honorable member, is the sole shareholder in the water board. We are also established in accordance with the PFMA as a Schedule 3B government business enterprise, which means that as an entity, we need to generate our own revenue. We don't receive any funding from the fiscus. When you look at uMngeni-uThukela water, we have two subsidiaries that were established in line with the mandate that I've spoken about. We have uMngeni, which manages water resources and the resorts that are there within those water resources, which are the dams and the resources that are there in those dams. We have uMngeni Water Services, which is like a front-end loading that prepares the business for us as a water board to ensure that we have a value chain that is ready to be integrated and incorporated into the main business of uMngeni-uThukela water. so they specialize mostly in partnership with other water service authorities and other industries and other stakeholders in a way that eventually generates business. That business then gets handed over to uMngeni-uThukela water to run when it's matured. As I've said, in terms of the board and the executive, we have a board which is led by the advocate, Mr. Kuzwa, who was here earlier before me. It's a 12-member board. We currently have vacancies of 2 members in the board, which the Honorable Minister may or may not fill those vacancies. The board, in discharging its fiduciary duties, has made a decision to have specific board committees in line with the recommendations that are in the King for Corporate Governance report. We have Audit, Finance and Risk Committee. We have a Social and Ethics Committee. We have a Capital Project and Fixed Asset Committee, which we call CAPEX. We have a Human Resource and Remuneration Committee. We have Innovation, Technology and Information Technology Committee. And then we have the Governance Committee. So these committees, they enable the board to carry its fiduciary responsibility of holding the executive accountable in the organization and to give strategic direction in the way the organization should go. These committees, when you look at them in the year under consideration, they had 44 meetings. So I know that in the media there's been a lot of talk about remuneration of board and board members, but when you look at the number of meetings and when you look at the context to say we are a water board that is in transition, where in 2023 we moved to integrate uMhlathuze water and uMngeni water to form this uMngeni-uThukela water effective from the 1st of July 2023. It means that for the board to be effective and to perform its fiduciary responsibilities, they had to have regular meetings with the executive, provide strategic direction, and ensure that the organization is able to sustain itself and move as it integrates into one institution, which is uMngeni-uThukela water. Hence, you have those high fees and high board sittings that had to take place in that time. And I believe that as we are maturing in this integration process, the number of the sittings will start to reduce because now we are moving towards a normal operational phase of the organization, which is uMngeni-uThukela water. Under the executives, which report to the board, CEO is leading the executive committee that drives the day-to-day operation of the organization. And we, as an entity, in order to be able to then be efficient and effective in the area that has been gazetted as our area of operation, which is KwaZulu-Natal, where we know that there are 14 water services authority. We have decided to categorize the province into 4 regions. We have a northern region which is made up of uMngeni-uThukela water services, the Zululand District Municipality, King Cetshwayo District Municipality, and the city of uMhlathuze local municipality. Those makes what we call the northeastern region of our area of operation. We then have the northwestern region, which is the area where it's comprised of Newcastle local municipality, Amachuba District Municipality, uMzinyathi local municipality, and uThukela District Municipality. We have the central region. The central region comprises of Ilembe district municipality and eThekwini metro. Then we have the south central region, which comprises of Ugu district municipality, the Helikwala district municipality, the Umsunduzi local municipality, and uMngungundlovu district municipality. We believe categorizing the area of supply into these four regions will make us to be efficient, agile, and being able to respond in accordance with the needs of the consumers that we are supplying. When you look at the government oversight, the minister is the overall overseer of all the water boards. So Ms. Pim Machodina is the overseer of the water board. There is also the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee that oversees all the activities of the water sector in South Africa. There were oversight visits. I will just touch on a few. There was an oversight visit at Ugu District Municipality by both the MEC for Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs in KwaZulu-Natal and the Minister, together with the Deputy Ministers of Water and Sanitation, where we were going to visit the Lower uMkomazi water scheme. There was an oversight in eThekwini, where there was a handover of the houses to the communities that were displaced when we were raising the Hazelmere dam wall. There was an oversight visit to launch the Gwaqimba water treatment plant in a form of a package plant that we had to develop on an urgent basis because of the dire need of the water shortages in the area of Gwaqimba. There was a visit to uMngungundlovu to launch the Mpophomeni wastewater works. And lastly, as part of the oversight visits by the Minister and MEC, there was a visit in the uMkhanyakude district to launch the Maqhibini bulk water supply scheme. In terms of the board, the board has had 11 board meetings. As you are aware, that there are supposed to be 6 board meetings per year. But as I've stated, that because of the transition nature of the entity, we had to have more board meetings to then deal with issues of integration of the institution. As a result, instead of the 4 ordinary board meetings and 2 special board meetings, we had to have 11 board meetings. It means that the board was working overtime to try and ensure that the institution remains a viable and an efficient institution. When you look at the corporate plan, which is the strategy of the department that is approved by the minister, that guides the organization in its performance over the next 5 years, which then become implementable through the shareholder compact, which is an agreement between the board and the minister. I'm pleased to say that uMngeni-uThukela Water achieved a 97.59% achievement of its KPI. From my experience, this is the highest performance that any water board has ever achieved in South Africa. And I must say that last year, when the minister was giving us results of the previous year's performance, uMngeni-uThukela Water was number 1 with a then 96% performance. So this did, as the chairperson has stated earlier on. When you look at the collaboration and partnership, I've said that uMngeni Water Services is one of our subsidiaries that looks at that collaboration and partnerships, where their mandate is just to package and promote water value chain products, services, and competencies of the group through the partnership and collaborations. And there were 7 co-creating partnerships that the water services has managed to activate. And these partnerships, there's partnerships with the CSI, Council for Scientific Research, eThekwini method through issues of dealing with non-revenue water, the sector education training and authority, the SETAs, the Department of Higher Education, Ugu District Municipality, Department of Corporate Governance, and the University of Johannesburg. And all these partnerships have already started to bear fruits that are beneficial. We have seen with Ugu, there is a program that uMngeni Water Services is implementing to reduce non-revenue water. That will be beneficial to us because it will then reduce the demand on our side to supply the water to Ugu, which ends up not getting to the consumers who are supposed to benefit from that water. Similarly, in eThekwini, there is a similar project where we are dealing with non-revenue water, and we believe that since the uMngeni system, which is our main system of supply, is under strain in terms of abstraction, dealing with the non-revenue water in eThekwini, which is our biggest customer, will then reduce pressure from us to abstract more water from the resources, which has resulted in the department even giving us a notice of non-compliance with our abstraction license, which then requires that we do a curtailment. So such initiatives, when they are being implemented, it will ensure that the committed volumes in terms of the license, we are able to be within the license condition in supplying these municipalities. If you look at the strategic risk, we have looked at 3 priority areas, which is the ability to meet future demand. We are looking at the ability to deliver projects on time, and the third is the financial viability. There are 10 strategic risks that we have identified, but these are the 3 areas that we are focusing on. And I must say that we are above 80% in implementation of all risk action plans for the financial year. If you are looking at the performance at a glance, high level, I'm sure the CFO will be dealing with financial performance in detail, and the COO will be looking at the operational performance in detail. But as an entity, as I've said, we have achieved a performance of 97.5% in terms of achieving the predetermined objectives and targets that we had contracted with the minister, and this is according to the audited information. In terms of the revenue, we had a 6.68 billion rands of revenue from the Section 29 activities. From the Section 30 activities, which is other related businesses, we only achieved 915 million, which is shy of 1.2 billion that we had targeted for ourselves to achieve. There were delays in some of the key projects, which is a ministerial directive in Greater Mbizana, where we had to terminate one of the contractor, which is the DWS construction unit. Because of the termination and the appointment of the new contractor, this then delayed us in getting the project rolling, thus earning Section 30 revenue from that project. In terms of avoidable water losses, we know that in the country, when you look at municipalities, the water losses or unaccounted for water is in the region of it's in the region of 40 to 50%. As a water board, I'm pleased to say that our avoidable water losses is only 3.5%, which means that we are ensuring that the water that we have abstracted and paid for ends up to the consumers, which are the Water Services Authority that we supply and the industries that we are supplying. We invested 11 million in corporate social investment. We also earned a surplus of 1.4 billion. Other matters, I want to touch on the water quality because that is what we are here for as a water board. We remain compliant to the tune of 98.6% with the water use license in terms of SANS 241 2015 standard, which means that our water meets and exceeds the Blue Drop standard. In terms of the wastewater that we are managing, we achieved a performance of 97.6%, which means that the effluent that we are discharging as an entity meets the Green Drop standard. So based on these experiences that we have, there is a need to then collaborate and share this experience with our water service authorities, as we have seen that in the Blue Drop report in the country and the Green Drop report, there is a high level of non-compliance and non-conformance to the standards, and I believe that we have the skill and we have the resources to be able to assist our partners, the Water Service Authority, to improve their status in both Blue Drop and Green Drop. Lastly, underperformance, what I want to touch on is our expenditure on the infrastructure upgrade and expansion. For the first time, as an entity, we were able to spend 3.1 billion rands towards water-related infrastructure upgrade and development. Although this is shy of 4.5 billion, which was our target, I believe it was an ambitious target that we had set for ourselves, but we are in line to ensure that KwaZulu-Natal will have water security in the near future with such CAPEX interventions. This slide just confirms what I'm saying. When you look at 2020, in terms of our CAPEX expenditure, we were at 840 million rand. 2021, we were at 825. Say 2023, we were at 1.7 billion rand. 2024, we were at 2.6 billion rand. Then come 2024-25, where we were just above 3 billion rands, which shows that as uMngeni-uThukela Water, we are intentional about our expansion and about growth and about ensuring that there's future sustainability of water supply in the KwaZulu-Natal province. Here we are talking of our corporate social investment, which is my last slide. After that, I will allow the COO to take us through the operations performance. We had educational and community outreach where we had 84 communities that we reached as an organization. We adopted school programs where 21 schools were adopted. In terms of the school outreach projects program, we had 94 schools that we reached. We conducted 18 workshops for the educators. We conducted 40 plant tours for the schools where learners were taught about water management. In terms of, I'm sorry, that should be ESD, Enterprise Supplier Development. We had 22 projects that were supported and 4 projects that were completed. 18 projects are continuing, and 120 community members are trained on various skills. 147 local companies benefited, and 1,220 local laborers received employment through this program. I think on the execution of mandate, I will then ask the COO to then take us through that one. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation, CE. Let me not waste time and go straight to the presentation by the Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Tamim Kwanazi. Okay. Thank you. There's the... All right. Thanks. You point out. Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to take you through the financial performance of uMngeni-uThukela Water for the year 2024-2025. The purpose is actually to then give you the audited consolidated financial results and obviously touch on the key financial risks that actually affect our financial performance. We'll also provide an overview of the financial performance, position, and financial results as outlined in the annual report. So I'll be summarizing what's on the annual report, and then obviously it's just to present these financial results. I think on the financial overview, as a highlight, the group surplus for the year ended 30 June 2025 decreased by 6% to 1.3 billion rands compared to 1.4 billion rands. But I would probably mention that our target or budget for the financial year was around 700 million. So we are still way higher than what we had actually targeted for the year. We had actually planned that we were going to be below what we had achieved in the previous year. Major challenges that actually would have impacted on that was one, the increase in credit losses, where we've found that, or we've seen that municipalities are having cash flow issues and are unable to pay us on time, and that becomes a cost on our bottom line. And secondly, we had our volumes actually reduced based on the curtailment of abstraction in the uMngeni system, which meant that our volumes actually stayed a bit stagnant. The group's gross profit increased by 3% from 3.7 billion rands to about 3.8 billion rands for the year. Our total assets base, my apologies, yeah, we're still here. Our total assets base increased by 14%, and this was mainly driven by the increases in additions to assets as we work with projects where we've got waterworks that we are actually building and dams that we build, that those additions actually go into our asset base. So our property, plant and equipment increased by 18%, which is the equivalent of about 2.3 billion rands for the group. The operating profit, so the 1.3 billion rand is our net surplus or net profit. But we then have operating profits, which is profit before interest and tax. That also decreased by 12%, and the impact of that is still the same, where we saw quite an increase in credit losses as well as a reduction in our sales. Bulk water revenue, and I've stated that it did increase by 8%, but this was actually because of the tariff increase of 10%, and obviously the reduction of about 2% to 8% was actually then caused by the reduction in the volumes per se. Operating and administrative expenses increased as well by 10%. Those details are in section 2.1.4 of the annual report. I think it's quite detailed, and we did not actually include it in here. We will, however, touch on some of the key cost drivers on the presentation. Operating performance, I'm going to touch on revenue, cost and expenses, profits, as well as how we've managed our cash flow for the year. The statement of profit and loss, as my apologies, I keep forgetting to move this. I'm managing to a lot of technology, but so the revenue. Revenue, as stated, for 2025 was 7.6 billion rands, an increase from 2024 of 755 million rands from 6.8 billion rands. We then also saw a kind of like a requisite increase in our cost of sales of about 645 million rands. I will get to the detail of what were the drivers. Our gross profit percentage, we've seen it also reduce. 2024, we had a 54% gross profit percentage, which is now down to 50%. The major cause of that is we actually, as much as sales reduce, our Section 31 activities, which is project management, has lower margins, where we then charge maybe a management fee of 5% or 4%, and that then dilutes your cost of sales. So we had quite a few activities of Section 30 that would actually then dilute your gross profit percentage down to 50%. Other operating and admin costs, apologies there, that 2062, I think it's supposed to be 206 rather, were up by about 206. And then expected credit losses, as I stated, if you notice, 2024 was 425 million, 2025 was 522 million rands. That then goes down to the profit before tax, or a surplus before tax of 1.3 billion rands compared to 1.468. That was an 88 million rand shortfall from the prior year's performance. Total revenue, if we just dive into the detail a bit, was 11%. The increase was 11%. And this is due to the bulk water tariff, as I said. But then also there was bulk water sales volumes, which were driven by eThekwini Metro and uMsunduzi Metro. We do have the table. You will really forgive me today. I think I've got to, maybe I should just work on this one. There's a table there that shows total volume supplied in 2025, 639 million kiloliters. Then we've got cost of sales, which in total increased by 20%. And there are drivers, cost drivers within the cost of sales. One is chemicals, which increased by 37.9%. And this is due to more of a usage increase. I think in the financial year, we had a challenge with algae, which then required us to actually utilize more chemicals. But we also had an increase on coagulants. That coagulant usage was 29% higher than what we had actually utilized in the prior financial year. Energy, and this is your electricity, fuel, and all the types of energy that we use, that increased by 58.74% year on year. And the first contributor was tariff, and the second one would have been usage. The overall increase over the prior year, there was a tariff of about 12.7% that was imposed by Eskom, and then there were increased usage in the Midma system, as well as King Cetshwayo District Municipality, and they actually contributed a lot in the 2025 financial year in increasing that. And there was lower pumping at Spring Grove because of the high usage of the Midma system. The next driver would be maintenance cost. As you will understand, all these projects or assets need to be maintained to continue to work at peak performance, and these increased by 39% over the prior year, and this was just due to higher maintenance recoveries for spares and other external costs, together with increase in labor recoveries, and this was due to the increased charge-out rates that we issue for our internal labor. The King Cetshwayo also became a contributor, where we also spent a lot on maintenance of their rudimentary schemes, but also there was a pump refurbishment that was incurred in our Durban Heights and Wiggins waterworks. Staff costs were up 25.3% above prior year. I think the organization was upgraded in the financial year 2025 from a grade A2 to a grade A1. That actually had an impact on our salary costs, because now we had to then make sure that we then pay our staff in the new grade as actually they were regraded. But also there was increased overtime costs, as we as an organization we've been actually recruiting and placing people into new positions, but you'll understand that in 2025 those vacancies meant that certain staff members had to work overtime. So there was a trade-off between having vacant positions being saved, but also having to pay for overtime and I think acting allowances. And then raw water. Raw water expenditure was below the budget for the year, and I think it was also below the prior year. But there were higher volumes that were recorded within uMngeni system in Hazelmere, I think, as I had actually explained. Oops. My apologies. I've already spoken about maintenance as well as direct staff costs. Colleagues, you're just going to have to believe what I'm saying. I try and be a very trustworthy person, so if there's anything I'm missing, I'll see hands. Other operating and admin costs, I'd already mentioned that they increased by 10%, whilst our net finance income, and this is interest that we generate from investments, stayed a little bit flat at about 682 versus last year of about 680 million. Whilst other operating and admin costs were sitting at 2.5 billion in 2024, they went up to about 2.8 billion rands. And I did explain that credit losses were a contributor. There was staff costs that also were main contributors in our admin costs, increasing by 10%. Bulk water cost per kiloliter, we do this analysis just so we can see for each kiloliter of water that we supply, how much it actually costs us. It actually did increase from 6 Rand 88 per kiloliter to 8 Rand 70 in 2025. This equates to about a 27% year-on-year increase. And the main contributors of this are chemicals, as I had explained, maintenance, as well as energy. Our return on asset, this is the ratio that says of the assets that we invest, how much return do we actually receive. This return on asset actually reduced by 1.19%, and this was due to the lower operating profits that was impacted by the credit losses, increase in staff costs, and other expenses. I've already spoken of the profit for the year, the 6% decrease from 1.4 billion down to 1.3 billion. The amount is 88 million shortfall. On the cash flows, the operating cash after scheduled repayment of debt was sufficient to fund our investing activities, and with capital expenditure. Net cash used in financing activities totaled 161 million rands, which consisted of 35 million loan repayment and interest paid of 117 million rands. All surplus cash was invested in line with our investment policy. Cash flows from operations, there was an increase from 2 billion rands in the previous financial year up to 2.6 billion rands in the current financial year. And this increase of about 650 million year on year is due to the increase in working capital requirements, as the amount due from trade and receivables is increasing as a result of credit risk. And we've stated that that's one risk that we are busy trying to manage, where municipalities are really battling to actually pay us on time. When we touch on the financial position or balance sheet, the statement of financial position shows that our total non-current assets in 2025 are sitting at 15.1 billion rands. This is a 2 billion rand increase, or 2.6 billion rand increase from 2024, which was sitting at about 13.4 billion rands. Our current assets, which has got short-term investments, inventories, trade and other receivables, as well as our main bank account, also increased from 8.3 billion rands to 9.7 billion rands. There was a slight decrease in capital expenditure, but I think our CEO did actually touch on some of the reasons why we had a reduction from the 4.3 billion to 3.1 billion rands. But I think one area is just to touch on the fact that there is a project in Lower uMkomazi that has actually been delayed by tender appeals, and we had actually planned that that project was supposed to actually be on course in the 2025 year. So that's the shortfall that we have. Investments totaled 6.4 billion. So we still hold quite a substantial amount of investments at 6.4 billion. It did reduce slightly from the previous financial year, where we were sitting at 6.9 billion. And I think it's just because we are now utilizing funds. I think there was a period where the CEO showed the trajectory of 2020, 2021, 2022, where there was very little spend on capital expenditure. Now we've ramped up that spend, where in 2024 we spent 4 billion, and this year we spent 3 billion. And I don't think it's going to slow down. It's actually going to be averaging around 3.5 to 4 billion rands every year for the next 5 years. And thus, you will see a reduction of those investments that we have. The other one is debtors days. There is an increase in debtors days. I think in 2024, we had 43 days. This has slightly increased to 50 days. And I think it still touches on the issues of municipalities not paying us. I think even what actually really assists us as an organization is that eThekwini municipality, which is about 75% of our business, does pay us on time. And that actually then shields us from the bigger, exposure of the credit risk. under the equity and liabilities, our non-current liabilities reduced from 2 billion rands down to 1.22 billion. That was an 845 million rand reduction on our what you call. And this, if you look, is more on the long-term debt, where we actually have a 965 million rand reduction. That reduction has been transferred to short-term debt because I think in April or end of March, we have to repay a loan of 930 million rand. And obviously, it's now no longer long-term because in 3 months, we have to actually repay that. What we've done as an organization is, over the period, I think from 2 years ago, we've actually been ring-fencing funds or reserving funds to ensure that we are able to pay the 900 million. And I think at the moment, we've gone up to about 700 million that we've actually accumulated. So it won't be new money that we pay. It's money that we had actually ring-fenced and reserved over the period. Just maybe touching a little bit on the gross debt and borrowing limits. National Treasury limits us on how much we can go out and borrow, and I do think that it's actually responsible in that they are trying to protect the whole fiscus, where entities or departments can't just go and borrow funds and put the whole treasury into debt that they can't control. In 2025, our borrowing limit was 4.5 billion rands. Of that 4.5 billion, we've only utilized 1 billion rands. But I would like to mention that going forward, I think from April, we are going back to the market to then borrow some more as we start ramping up our capital expenditure program from 2026 going forward up to 2031 or 2032. Our gross debt equity debt to equity ratio stayed stagnant at 0.06, and this is just because we have not gone out to borrow. This is bound to change next year. When we present this would have changed because we would have gone to the market and actually borrowed more money, and this ratio will actually shift. On the ratings, so when you go out and borrow, your credit status is quite important as to how much interest you then end up paying on the funds. So it's very important that as an organization that uses borrowed funds to actually build projects to supply water to the province, we then are rated by international rating agencies. The agencies that we utilize to do the rating is Standard & Poor as well as Fitch. And for the current financial year, obviously they affirm these rates over a certain period. So the last affirmation that we have from Standard & Poor, and this is a rating on a national scale, was for long-term rating is AAA, and for short-term rating is A-1. And Fitch, this was done in November, which is about 3 months ago. It's AA+ for long-term rating and F1+. And I'm happy to say that these ratings are above the country's rating. So we are rated above the sovereign ratings. I would like to also maybe touch on the irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. I do think that it's one area of governance that we are busy working on, and our CEO had already touched on some of the initiatives that we do. But I think for this audience purpose, it's always best to then maybe touch on a little bit of detail as to what initiatives we're busy with as an organization on fruitless and irregular expenditure. One, we have actually gone to National Treasury. I think after you have actually done your investigations, strengthened your controls, done consequence management, you then go to National Treasury to say, I've got this irregular expenditure that needs condonement, and once it's condoned, then it means we can actually take it out of our report. We are able to report that there is about 1.2 billion rands of irregular expenditure, which actually represent about 22% in total, that has actually been successfully condoned. One, it went through Treasury, Treasury had queries, they then referred it to the board, and it has been actually condoned by the board. 1.2 billion rands, that represents 22%. There's 40% of the total irregular expenditure that is actually at the formal application stage. So this is where investigations are still ongoing, and obviously we await those determinations from the investigations, which then gives us what further actions need to be done. The remaining 38% is also sitting at various stages of assessment in accordance with the PFMA compliance and reporting framework. That is, certain cases are sitting at disciplinary stage, some are sitting at a finalization of investigation reports. The second one is we are busy finalizing the process of recovering previously identified fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We are happy to also report that we had an 81.3% reduction year on year on our fruitless and wasteful expenditure. The opening balance of that fruitless and wasteful expenditure has been fully investigated. So we are busy, we've investigated all cases of fruitless and wasteful expenditure. We are busy with the recovery processes, which are sitting at various stages of implementation. One, there's acknowledgement of debts that have been actually set up. The other one is actually engaging legal in terms of then debt collection for some of these items. Just touching on the investigations by the SIU, all SIU investigations and proclamations have been concluded, and the related reports are currently at implementation phase with follow-up actions being monitored. I know that the board has actually created an ad hoc committee made up of advocates to actually look at the way forward on how to deal with some of these recommendations that are sitting in those SIU reports. Through the chair of the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee, we've approved a 4-point strategy titled The Roadmap to a Clean Audit to address key issues that were identified or are identified during a statutory audit. And there's been significant progress that has been actually recorded across the 4 strategic streams. First stream being enhancing compliance with applicable laws and regulations. I think CEO did touch on the fact that one area the AG raised was compliance with supply chain processes, mainly on contract management, as one area that was raised by the AG. There was also a finding around certain adjustments that needed to be made in the financial statements based on how some of the numbers were actually disclosed, and we're saying we want to improve the quality and credibility of that financial information. And this is through practice of increasing the number of times we actually prepare annual financial statements. So in this financial year, we are happy to report as well that the financial statements that we're going to produce, we normally produce interim financials, which are extracts. We are busy preparing a full set of financials that then assists us to then pick up certain errors quite quicker than wait until the end of the financial year. And then strengthening supply chain management practices. I think it's a big challenge, and it's an industry-wide or sector-wide challenge. But we continue to train all staff that is involved in supply chain management. We recently have actually employed 3 senior managers that were not there because we had acting for the longest of time in those senior roles. So we now have permanent staff that can actually take full accountability of what actually occurs or happens in the supply chain management space. And then the enforcement of consequence management to drive accountability. I think at the end, once there's been non-compliance, we need to then say who caused the non-compliance and how do we deal with that. And last year, in 2024, AG had raised that we were delaying in implementing consequence management. This was part of the audit report in 2024. And in 2025, that finding has been removed, as the Auditor General was happy with the progress that's been made on consequence management by the organization. I would like to stop there, Program Director, and thank everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, CFO. Sihle Mavuso, maybe Tami Makubane from the Mercury and Trees. Here's a quotable quote that I got from the Chief Executive, and I just thought, you know, it would be nice to hear that uMngeni-uThukela Water, in the media, of course, has an excellent credit rating of AA+ from international credit ratings agencies. But that's just me. I'm just saying, Tony, that's just me. It's a nice quotable quote. Anyway, let me invite now to the podium the Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Sanele Mazibuko, who really reconciles the project spend against what the CFO has presented. Thank you. And here's the pointer. Hopefully you won't become challenged. Yeah, you move left, right, but I think you're moving right. Yes.
Many thanks, Program Director. Greetings to the board. Greetings to the media. Greetings to all our stakeholders and colleagues. I'm just going to trust the system. I'm not going to bring my iPad. I'm going to trust that it works. Unfortunately, at this point in time, it hasn't. Apologies for that. Thank you. I am going to just give an overview of our operational performance with emphasis on infrastructure delivery as the biggest enabler of our operational resilience. This is just to give comfort or confidence that our CAPEX program, which is the cornerstone of our operations, this is backed up by the relevant documentation from our municipalities that we support through the IDPs. It is also backed up by the provincial growth strategy and ultimately by the water and sanitation master plan, which also ultimately gives rise to the giving effect to the prescript of the Constitution that everyone has right to sustainable water supply in the country. This, therefore, all comes together in our universal access plan, which then gives rise to our CAPEX program, which is a shorter term in terms of the planning horizon, which is a 5-year horizon. You would have seen this slide from the Chief Executive. Here, what we want to emphasize is the importance of the spread of our capital infrastructure projects. You would note that we spent 20% of our CAPEX budget on rehabilitation type of infrastructure. I think this is important because over and above your normal maintenance spend, you need to give new life to your assets. So this ensures that our infrastructure will be reliable in the near future and in the future as well. Also, we have spent about 32% of our budget on rural development projects. This is in line with the constitutional mandate that everyone shall have a right to sustainable water services. Then the gist of our infrastructure planning, it revolves around us having sustainable bulk supply zones which give us economies of scale in terms of water supply services. In our operational area, we have quite a few of those that give us some level of economies of scale, from eThekwini all the way up to Richards Bay, down to Port Shepstone, and in to Pietermaritzburg. Therefore, those systems require to be beefed up at strategic intervals with sustainable water provision for the future. As you would note, unfortunately, my pointer is not effective given the light. So I'm going to try and explain. So if you look at what we try to do, therefore, we want to rationalize the raw water availability with the demands in our operational area. Currently, the main system that supplies uMngeni-uThukela water is the uMngeni River system, which has quite a few dams and the largest treatment systems there. So what we want to do with our infrastructure plan, we want to augment this river, which is already strained, with the uMkhomazi River down south, in the north with uThukela River. What these projects will do is that we will, at the top, starting in the northeast, what we call the northeast region, we are taking water from uThukela River, we are augmenting uMhlathuze River. This will ultimately ensure that supply to industries in Richards Bay and supply of potable water is going to be sustained in the future. And you would note that, unfortunately, my pointer, from the uThukela River on your left, apologies, on your left, we have a project that we've recently concluded that we call a Thukela Transfer Scheme. That project will double the existing capacity. It will increase by 100 megaliters per day of raw water. This takes water all the way through to the Khudetro Dam, which supplies the King Cetshwayo District Municipality, the key zones there, Eshowe and Mthonjaneni, all the way up to uMhlathuze River, where we abstract for our Nsezi treatment works, which has also been upgraded to 205 megaliters per day of capacity. This therefore means that in the northeast region, we have sufficient water resources for the foreseeable future, because in terms of plant utilization, you will see on my next slide, the Nsezi water treatment works is just about 50% of utilization. So we are comfortable with the water resources in the northeast region in that regard. There are other projects in the planning phases to further augment uMhlathuze. These projects are at feasibility. We want to augment from uMfolozi River back to uMhlathuze system through Nseleni system. So those are the kinds of projects that we work with. Then on the south, we want to augment uMngeni River system with uMkhomazi River. We have two critical projects along the uMkhomazi River. One is Lower uMkhomazi, which we will speak to, and then we have Upper uMkhomazi, which will resolve most of the problems in many of the water services authorities we supply. We also have water resources dams in strategic areas in the south coast, in Ugu district, and also in Herigwala. We have a category 2 type of dams which are at implementation phase as well, which we'll discuss. Then to outline the performance in terms of our infrastructure, you would note on my I almost said graph. It's been a while since I've been to university. This is not a graph. They will correct me. You will note that most of our schemes are operating beyond 80% of the design capacity. We want to operate just around 80% so that we have enough flexibility to manage demands in the system. Unfortunately, the picture you are seeing here is that most of our systems are overutilized. This is as a result of unexpected rapid demands in the systems, which in the main are as a result of water losses which are in the reticulation system. You would note Nsezi on your far left, it is at about 54% utilization. This is as a result of giving effect to new infrastructure in the system and augmentation. So we are comfortable in that region. So with this slide in mind, then this means then that we are over abstracting. So as we have been partially penalized by the department, the uMngeni river system, which is our main system, has been over abstracting water. Before the start of the financial year of reporting, we were over abstracting by about 113 megaliters per day. And together with the municipalities, we worked on plans of action, which comprise of several water conservation demand management strategies. And this was a one-year plan of action, which has since been revised. You can see that at this point in time, we are sitting at just above 1,300 megaliters per day. And the target is supposed to be around 1,287 megaliters per day. So this is in 6 months' time. So you can see that at this point in time, the deficit is just about 50 megaliters per day. So this is good work by the municipalities together with ourselves to reduce this demand or to manage this demand. This is not starving people with water, but these are water conservation, water demand management strategies that are employed to find these water losses and resolve them. Just to give an overview of one example project, there is a project we are doing with eThekwini, which we call a M project. This is a project in the reticulation system where we are working on measuring, monitoring. Sorry about that. We are ensuring effective measuring, effective monitoring, and modeling, which will then give you live feel of the system so that it does not result to unaccounted for water losses. You will be able to have quicker reaction time. So this project is funded by uMngeni-uThukela Water. I think it's 50 million at this point in time. Then if we move straight to the performance in terms of the actual infrastructure projects that we have implemented, I'm just going to be doing more of the talking because my pointer, this is going to be nice if I'm pointing. I'm going to be starting with the eThekwini Metro in terms of the infrastructure that is being planned and implemented. I'll only be touching on key infrastructure. The rest will just be for reading later on. The key infrastructure project that is on the horizon is the uMkomazi water project. We call it Upper uMkomazi just to differentiate with the Lower uMkomazi. This project is a 615 megaliters per day project, which we jointly implement with TCTCA. We are implementing the potable water component of this project. I think it's good to report that after several, I would say, months or years of finding each other with respect to concluding the offtake agreements, the project has successfully kick-started and it is currently at the design phases. We are expecting to fast-track these designs to within 18 months or so, so that we hit construction phase in the shortest possible time. So this project will service 5 WSAs, including eThekwini, Ugu Municipality, iLembe, Herikwala, and uMsunduzi. So it's a very important project. It will fit into the existing uMngeni river supply system at uMlaza Road, thereby relieving the supply system for uMsunduzi and uMgungundlovu from the already existing supply systems from Mitma Dam. So this is an important project which we are excited that it has finally started. We are also in the construction phase of the Lower uMkomazi project. I think it has been discussed in terms of the challenge of the critical path contracts of that project, which is the waterworks. However, the other components are progressing well. This project includes the off-channel storage dam, which is progressing fairly well, just around 50% completion. That system is slightly independent of the critical path, because at least when that system is concluded, we will be assured that future raw water supply will be available for the system. So it's an off-channel storage system for the same Lower uMngeni water treatment works. As soon as the court processes are concluded and procurement is finalized, this is anticipated to take about 18 to 24 months to conclude, which will then mean 100 megaliters per day of water will be available for eThekwini and Uku District Municipality. Then that can at least give us some relief whilst we conclude the Upper uMngeni project to ensure that eThekwini and Uku at least have some water security. I have listed some of the projects which are rehabilitation in nature. These are very important to ensure reliability of our infrastructure. Some of our infrastructure is as old as from the 1950s. So it's important that we give it new life to ensure that what happened during the floods does not happen again. So as part of forward planning, we include quite a big chunk of rehabilitation of these projects. But to highlight one key success in the report for the reporting period, the line number 4 there, the Waklimba package plant, was successfully completed. This is a 7 megaliter per day treatment system, which augments supply within eThekwini system, specifically in Waklimba supply system. Then that relieves supply to all the other northern areas of the city of eThekwini. So this was a very big milestone for our infrastructure program in the reporting year. As we move to iLembe District Municipality, in iLembe, we are also happy that one upgrade project has just concluded. The KwaMaphumulo water treatment plant has been upgraded from 6 to 12 and is operating successfully. It has just been commissioned about 3 months or so ago. We also have quite a number of important projects in iLembe that we call uMshwathi phases. Those are secondary bulk type of projects. They interconnect from the uMngeni river system all the way to KwaMaphumulo and KwaDukuza, and further connect down from the Hazelmere system. This is an important phenomenon because you want to have a ring in your water supply system so that in future you have necessary flexibility. We are on course to complete some of those projects there in uMshwathi. I think on the 20th we'll be opening one of those projects with the Minister of Water and Sanitation. So we are on course in iLembe District Municipality as far as covering the whole areas in terms of water supply. We just need to now complete the Lower uThukela system. So, uThukela uMngeni, which one is at the top? uThukela, yes. I've spoken about uMngeni, so these names you need to be sure. So now we need to upgrade the scheme in Lower uThukela from 55 megaliters per day to 110. You would have noted from my earlier plant utilization, that plant is currently operating beyond its current capacity. And this plant has recently been commissioned. I would say it's recent because it's around 2018. This shows how erratic and exponential the demands can be. So we've completed the plant around 2018, 55 megaliters per day. It never operated around 80%. It just shot straight to about 100%. So hence the need to complete the phase 2 of this project, which is going to procurement in the next month. We are happy that the designs have finally been concluded. So it will bring some relief, especially in the KwaDukuza regions of iLembe. We will not discuss some of these. We've added some important projects which are water conservation, water demand in nature. The first one, line 7 there, the Groudville pipeline. There we're busy with feasibilities. It's a pipeline which has enormous water losses for the municipality. So we're investigating it to rationalize it such that it gives us more water and we reduce losses. So it's going to be an interesting project as well. So it's an example of a water conservation, water demand project. If we move further down south and go to Uku, I'm a bit short. So in Uku, Obviously, the Umkomazi water projects will affect Uku, but the important project in Uku is the Twabeni of Channel Storage Dam. This is just about 10 million cubic meters dam, a category 2 dam. It's very important for the water resources of the South Coast, taking water from the Umzimkhulu River. This project is a ministerial directive project. It also delayed originally due to water pollution. So that project was very important that it gets completed. It's a 6 megaliter per day wastewater treatment plant. It has been completed, finalizing commissioning processes as we speak. Also, if you move to Hilton, we've also completed a 1 megaliter per day package plant, wastewater treatment plant. This is in line with the N3 corridor development. So in Umsunduzi, we have done quite a bit in terms of both water and wastewater, in terms of infrastructure resilience and ensuring that we enable economic development. I will skip some of these ones and then just finalize with the Northeast region, some of the activities happening as a result of Section 63 intervention. This is uMngeni-uThukela district municipality, where we have Section 63 directive. Most of these projects are dysfunctional scheme rehabilitation type of projects, augmentation types of projects within the reticulation systems. These ensure that water reaches new water reaches people that have never received water. We also resuscitate schemes dilapidated over time. So we have done quite well on these systems. In the Jozini local municipality, we have completed about 3 out of the 6, I would call them business plans, because these are packaged as business plans. We have 21 business plans in total. So in Jozini, we have completed and commissioned 3 of the 6 of those business plans. And then in Big 5 Hlabisa, we have completed 2 of the 5. And then in Mtubatuba, we have completed all of them. So we have given water to people in Mtubatuba. Yes, there is still some work that needs to be done, but the first phase was to resuscitate, augment, make sure that whatever is available, people at least get some level of supply. Instead of 24 hours of supply, at least ensure that communities get at least 9 to 15 hours of supply. I will end it here, Chairperson, and thank you.
Thank you very much, COO. Right on time. Colleagues of the media, I must once again implore that you bear with me. I will take the Chief Operating Officer to do an interview at 20 minutes to 12, but my watch says 15:15, and depending on the questions, and it's by no means censorship, let's ask the questions. I'm just saying that in the event that by 20 to 12, we are not finished with the questions, and there are those that are specifically directed at the COO. We also have the executives for infrastructure development, as well as the executive for special projects to my right, Mr. Stele and Unzwagele. So we are well covered. With that said, can we now get to the part where we actually ask the questions of clarity? I will take these in batches of 5, and if you can just identify yourself and the media house you represent as you do. I already see Tony Kani's hand from the Daily Maverick to my left. I note you, Tony. I see Dries Liebenberg from the SABC to my right. We will also have one-on-one interviews. I also see Sihle Mavuso to my left with a question. Roving mics, Megan, you stay that side. Noluntu, you stay that side. All right, so I have 3 hands thus far. Let's take those. So you introduce yourself and you just say at whom the question is directed.
Yes, good morning. Tony Carney from Daily Maverick. I've got 2 questions. One relates to going back to the floods in eThekwini. Following that, uMngeni Water took over, was it 10 or 12 wastewater treatment works. I was hoping to get some update on where that project is specifically with the northern wastewater treatment works, whether it is now compliant with wastewater discharges, and if not, why not, and what are the reasons for the delay in making it compliant. The second question was touched on by Mr. Mngeni on the issue of non-revenue water. Obviously, if uMngeni-uThukela, it's better to it get the more water it sells, the more revenue it gets, but it also has to build new dams. And when there's water that is leaking out, you mentioned that there's an initiative with eThekwini to reduce the non-revenue water. My question specifically is, about 2 or 3 years ago, eThekwini was sitting on about 53% non-revenue water and about 40% physical losses. You've had to curtail your abstraction from the uMngeni system. What is the current non-revenue component and water losses for eThekwini? Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. I said the second one was Dries. It's you, sir.
My name is Dries Liebenberg. I'm with SABC Radio News. I'd like to move to the media pack that touched on climate change planning. There was mention of mitigation measures where there's feasibility studies on the use of solar power and Bofana feasibility study on hydropower. If somebody can maybe just unpack those plans for us, please.
Thank you, Dries. Short and sweet. Mr. Mavuso.
Oh, thank you. 3 questions for me. How much is owed to uMngeni-uThukela water, and by who? And the other question is, basically it is related to eThekwini. I'm sure if you live in Durban, on the northern side of the city of Durban, time and again we run out of water, and eThekwini municipality will always tell you that no, it's the issue of uMngeni municipality. Yet I'm looking at your report, you are saying you spent 1.9 billion on infrastructure. Now, what I'm basically trying to understand is here, what is the state of your own infrastructure, bulk infrastructure in eThekwini? Is it true that it is aging and it is the one that is causing the constant the breakdown of water supply in the northern part of the city? And the last question relates to King Cetshwayo District Municipality. I'm sure you remember that in June last year, there was a dispute between King Cetshwayo and uMngeni-uThukela Water Board. They
Plan for the future. Unfortunately, with the 1 year and year extensions, you obviously can't execute large capital infrastructure projects for those systems. This therefore means that we could only perform operation and maintenance type of optimizations on the plants. So in terms of the updates, we have successfully resuscitated one plant which was completely out. This is uMhlanga Wastewater Treatment Works. We have also reduced quite a number of failures as a result from the pump station that is supposed to feed Phoenix, which should necessarily reduce in output. In terms of the Northern Wastewater Works, there is a CapEx project that is implemented by eThekwini currently. As soon as that project is completed, we will then realize full benefits of, in terms of compliance, meeting compliance. However, the reasons for failures at the sea level Those have to do with sewage that does not get in the main through the treatment systems. Those are failures upstream in the recirculation system. So as far as the update is concerned, yes, we have improved the systems, but not to the level where we want them, because we can't effect CapEx projects, because those ones, they are multi-year in nature and they require huge amounts of capital. And then there was a question on solar power and hydropower. If I may skip in that manner, forgive me. We have a project in the Mpofana outfall. That project is currently at design. It's planned for 1 megawatt power. We are just negotiating land ownership issues before that could be finalized and then go to procurement. We are comfortable that this project will ultimately come on board. In terms of the solar, yes, we have quite a few sites that we have earmarked for solar installations, and we have completed some of the specifications. About half of them have been completed, and our target is that by end of this financial year, we would have installed at 7 of our sites. So it's what we are looking at as well. Then there was a question also on non-revenue water in eThekwini and what is being done. eThekwini has got 4 major aqueducts. Those are big pipelines in which it supplies the communities. So the 50 million rands project that uMngeni is implementing there is looking at thoroughly analyzing all the systems. So what it does is that it creates a model, and then it determines at what points you must have metering, at what points you must have pressure regulation. And then the model then will tell you on real time where water is lost. So by so doing, you won't have those water losses that go forever as if it's a river and no one knows that it's water and thinks it's a river. So there are such things that will be resolved through such an initiative that we are working together with the city. One key element of losses from the city was from what we call the Southern Aqueduct. We know that that project has started by the city. So there is such a project which will reduce significantly the amount of physical water losses. As you would have noted from my table there, which shows the deficit, which has moved from 100 to 50 megaliters per day, it is as a result of some of these initiatives which are at the reticulation by the city. They have reduced physical, real water losses. I think then lastly, there was a question about what is the state of our infrastructure with regards to the supply to the city. Our infrastructure is very good. The only problem we have is the over-abstraction. We have over-abstraction issues, and then in the event where there is a failure, there are media releases to warn the public, and we give precise timelines. I think this is standard practice. We give precise timelines in line with the norms and standards. I think there is one KPI which comes from the Department of Water and Sanitation, the CE made mention of. You would note by that KPI, if we fail that KPI where we have non-supply for more than 48 hours, that is a direct indicator that the bulk supply is not sufficient. So in instances where there are failures, typically in an ideal world, we should not fill the failures within 48 hours because your storage in the distribution system should allow for that. So it's a combination of factors, but the state of our infrastructure is intact. We are even rehabilitating to ensure that even in the future, we don't run out of problems. Thank you.
Thank you. I think the next 2 questions are for the CFO.
Thank you, Program Director. I think I'll start with the first question.
Coming from an apartheid era space, these towns were often historically disadvantaged, and they continue to be so. Water cuts are daily, reservoirs shutting down to build up reservoir pressure, etc. as the citizens of these towns say, what has changed? Thank you.
Thank you, Dion. Tony, let's have your follow-up.
Thank you. It was indicated that water supply had been increased in the northern region to Goedertrouw Dam, and that there was a feeling of comfort that the water supplies to that Richards Bay and surrounding area region were kind of comfortable, adequate. My question relates to the proposal to build a new steel iron ore mine by Jindal, which was going to require very large volumes of water that were not available. Can you indicate whether the augmentation that is going to Goedertrouw would be sufficient to meet Jindal's anticipated demand? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's please have the responses to Dion and Tony.
Thank you for those questions. Probably let me start with the iron ore mine. I think much as this has not come formally as a request to ourselves, this will probably come through the city. It's a matter we can take up with the city because most of our agreements with the private industries are through the city of uMhlathuze. But generally, we don't foresee that we won't. But at this point in time, I can't answer because I don't know the exact amount being requested. But we have catered for the growth in the Richards Bay area in terms of our infrastructure. Bearing in mind also that we don't supply full in Richards Bay. There is an element supplied by the Water Service Authority itself there. So upon good negotiations with the city, we can come up with some alternative if there could be a need. But the water at this point in time, I can assure you that we are around 120 megaliters per day from a capacity of 205 megaliters per day, 55 megaliters per day. So it's sufficient capacity for now, which we are busy with some of the takers as well to finalize and get off-take agreements. And then there was a question on the North Supply system changes in terms of what happened. There is an improvement. I believe I got that question right. What happened here, I think, is that there was the Northern Aqueduct. There was a Northern Aqueduct upgrade, and there was supposed to be a smooth transition and changeover from the old system, which the city was commissioning at the time. And there was a huge vandalism of the Inanda pump station at the time as well. And it had taken the city some time to do those repairs. I think some months back, those have been completed and is improving the system. With the new Northern Aqueducts as well being commissioned, it's a more stable system than the old system. So this is what probably would have changed from the supply side. But from the bulk side, as you would have noted, we are over-abstracting. So there is no new water from the Durban Heights and Weekend system that can augment. It's been consistently that. If there were issues, it would have been issues in the reticulation system. I think then lastly, how do we get comfort that siltation is not taking prevalence over the actual water? Most of our dams, we have various draw-off levels, which based on the water quality, we change every now and again, and we test the water quality. So that's why we are comfortable with what we say is the stated volume of water. Yes, siltation is a problem, but at this point in time, we are comfortable with what we are reporting as water available because of the manner in which we change the abstraction levels, and the water we get gives us an indication of the good water. Thank you.
COO, thank you very much. I think at this point, ladies and gentlemen of the media, we can officially call it a day in terms of the formal proceedings. However, if you do want one-on-one interviews, we will grant those. I would like to acknowledge with special gratitude our board members for their presence at this session. This is the table in front of me. There's also Ms. Horzak at the back. Thank you very much, board members, for your participation and support. The chairperson of the board, of course, the chief officers, as well as my executives, senior management colleagues, thank you very much. The session is closed. We will meet again with our stakeholders. Dion, I'm afraid I'll have to censor. You will take it one-on-one. Certainly, we'll do that. We are still here. Thank you very much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again. This session is adjourned.